Welcome to the Age of Listening channel. Today I was going to do a talk on kind of oracle cards and how to use them and all that. But then my higher self came in and went, nope, I don't want you to do that. I want you to tell them about this. So that's what I guess that's what we're doing today. What we're looking at is intuition today. How to listen to your inner guide, how to be more psychic, how to expand your psychic abilities. But this is only step one. I've been putting this off for a while, and my higher self has just kind of gone, no, you can't, get on with it. So, okay. First off, let's just say, you know, your intuition, that beginning flower, that little bud of your psychic ability, is your telephone line to Creator God, to your higher self, to your guides. Okay. So, obviously you want to keep that line as clear and as open as possible. And we're going to be discussing that for step 2. But for now, we're talking about what it is and how to get it and how to expand it. So I want you to find ways where your intuition, first off, is strongest. Okay, have a think about that. And we're going to learn how to expand it into other areas. So like some people do it through writing, others it's prayer, others reading, sitting, people watching, early morning contemplation, you know, or last thing at night before you go to sleep. There's lots of different areas where I presume if you're on this channel that you get your hits from. And it's about getting that and then opening your mind and saying, I wonder if I can do it in other areas too. Because if you've got other areas, then welcome to the club. You'll be like me in permanent hermit mode. So when I was a little girl, my favourite pastime was always reading, and I read about 3 books a week, and I was always very aware that I classed it as God when I was younger, would always find books that I was meant to read. And I didn't sort of read, I read adult books. I was a weird kid. I kind of read, you know, pop sociology, pop psychology, how to be a good parent, how to be a good mother, at the ages of like from 11 on onwards. And yeah, so I just kind of had the feeling that everybody kind of picked books that way. But so I'm saying I'm a lot. It's because I'm nervous. This is such a complicated thing to do on this, especially when I'm talking to a camera and a window. But anyway, so when I was thinking about how to describe this to you guys, 2 words that came to my mind was expectancy and feeling. Expectancy and feelings. This is the first 2 words which you need to grasp hold of first. So let's look at what expectancy means. It means a state of thinking or hoping that something, especially something good, is going to happen. And so let's look at this orange area here. Thoughts and thinking. Yeah. So expectancy has a link to thinking, automatically assuming that something good is going to happen. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. So when you walk into a room and you can, you know, you feel like the air is just kind of pregnant with opportunities, and it's like you feel, you know, there's electricity happening, and you just know something's going to happen. Do you walk around with an air of expectancy? I kind of tend to always walk around with an air of expectancy. I'm constantly talking to everybody that I meet. You know, I don't just get my food, grab my change and walk away from the counter. I'm one of hello, I'd like this please, and I'm waiting for something to happen, for an interaction to take place. Don't ask me why, but I always have that, mostly because there are a lot of times where I will say something that will impact on someone's life, or I talking to someone, I just make them happy. You know, so I'm always walking into an atmosphere expecting to be used, really. Do you expect good things to happen to you? Do you expect to be used at any opportunity? You know, what areas are you positive about? What, you know, muscles are you strong in when it comes to expectancy? You know, there's good and there's bad expectancy. There is the, I'm expecting this to go wrong. I'm expecting this relationship not to work. Yeah, I'm expecting something bad. What areas do you do that in, honestly? I have conversations with people who go, oh, I'm such a positive person and I never judge anybody. And yeah, that's all I get from them. So I don't know what's going on in their head at that point. And I suggest you be very honest with yourself and say, how much of the time am I expecting something negative? And how much of the time am I expecting something positive? Let's move over to feelings. So your intuitive side comes out through your feelings, believe it or not, and that's the little green here, feelings. By the way, this was given to me by my guide and it's absolutely invaluable. I love it, and it's at the moment flat, but in step 2 I'm going to show you where it actually flips and becomes this 3D kind of object. Okay, but you know, you can't explain it sometimes, but sometimes, you know, where you feel like you should go left or right, or stay or move, or just, you know, you kind of get a feeling. And there was a police officer who was interviewed on this talk show, and in his years of being a police officer, dealing with a lot of attacks on people that had been attacked, or, you know, people that women specifically who were attacked, he quite quickly realized that they knew it was going to happen before it happened, and he became it's kind of his life's work, and he eventually wrote a book on it. And he ended up on this chat show, and he was asked, you know, what do the women say? And he says, well, they started initially, they kind of, I recognize they started to say things like, I knew I shouldn't have gone in there. I knew I shouldn't have let him in. I knew, do you get me? And he started realizing that there must be such a thing as a gut reaction. That gut reaction is your intuition, your telephone line, and your guide going, don't do it, don't do it, don't let him in. Doesn't matter if you look stupid. And when he asked the women, why did you ignore your intuition? They always said, I just thought I was being silly. I didn't want to make a fuss. I didn't want to look stupid. I thought I was just being daft. And so his book, I mean, this is like 25 years ago, 20 years ago, at least. So I'm sorry, you'll have to do some Google searching, Google investigating. But I never forgot that story. And I wanted to bring that up to help you kind of realize, which leads really to what is that intuition? What is that gut feeling? And I would argue that is your higher guide talking. So how do I explain this to my children, for instance, who are budding psychics? It's a little bit like this. I find that a lot of people who don't know an awful lot about their psychic abilities and don't feel they have any generally feel like it's a thunderbolt from above with a large booming voice. It can be, but most of the time it is a feeling, but also it's about registering what are your thoughts and what are thoughts that are coming from outside. And then all you have to do is turn the volume up and amplify them. So to begin with, how I explain it to my kids is when you have a thought that is coming from outside of you, outside of your own thoughts. So usually when you're thinking to yourself, you're going, shall I do this? Shall I do that? I don't know. I don't know. And then you get this kind of thought that makes you go, oh, I hadn't thought of that before. Yeah, I ought to do that. Is usually in third person, which is why it makes you go, oh. Now, you don't surprise yourself. You know your thoughts. You can have a conversation with yourself and you know it's you. But when you get that third person that talks to you and says, what about this? And then you get a picture, or what about that? And you get a different way to feel about the situation. And you then go, oh, that's your higher self calling. That's your higher self talking to you. It always comes as a third. But because we're brought up to ignore our thinking or just kind of think, well, everything that we hear is just ourselves. We just think, oh, it's just me. And we just ignore it. I'm not explaining it very well. I'm hoping I'm explaining it okay. So take some time over the lifetime of your life, actually. Don't take some time, just start doing it. And when you're thinking through a problem, when you're thinking what to do, is it in first person or third person? So a third person would be, why don't you, yeah, you, have you thought of, have you considered, think about this, think about that. And your reaction is one of surprise or, huh? Kind of like, oh, that's news to me. That is what you need to go, that's my higher self talking to me. It's the only thing, that's the only way that I can think of to help you get and how to tune in. And then once you listen to your thoughts really, really carefully, you're then able to turn it up, turn the volume up. And that is often by a lot of psychics, we stop talking as much because we're now listening to every thought that we're thinking. We're now staying quiet because we love to allow our higher self to do the talking for us, because it makes better sense. They talk better than we can, and so yeah. Okay, so right, so I'm just going to read you something out, and this is what I had months ago and I've been kind of putting it off. Yeah, so just lastly, so you've got the cart and the horse. So our expectancy is a cart. That is behind us, our expectancy. And our feelings are the horse that drives it. You know, how positive are you? How full of openness and joy and love? How much of that is in your heart? Motivating your day, your relationship with others. Because if you can embrace that love, and embrace that peace, you know, the gifts of the Spirit, if you are biblically minded. And you team it up with expectancy. You're in manifestation city. You really are. It's our feelings in the center that motivates our thoughts and our way of thinking. And what our actions are because of that thought, or our manifestations that we receive, is straight from it's consequential to our thoughts and our feelings. So let me give you a bit of an example then. If I wake up in the middle of the day, middle of the morning, sorry. If I wake up, scrub that, sorry, it's because I'm thinking. If I wake up and I'm feeling a little bit blue, not that I often do, but let's just say I do. I wake up feeling a bit meh, you know, meh. I immediately change and alter my feelings. I go, well, how do I want to feel? Come on, Rachel, buck out of it. My thoughts then about the rest of the morning and everything that I have to think about achieving starts to become more positive. And I've got more of a handle on what happens for the rest of the day. If I start off from a negative frame of mind, my expectations are low, then my thoughts in my head are going to spiral into just negativity. And from that, I manifest exactly what I've been thinking on. Manifest, and my actions become what I've been thinking on. And if I just changed my feeling, if I just adjusted my feeling. Now, this particular picture, I don't know if I've explained it yet, but it becomes 3D. But when initially I saw this, my higher self was trying to get me to understand that our feelings and how we feel is the anchor of that telephone line to create a God. So when I'll just read some stuff out now for step 1. We're born to create, but first we have to navigate our way home to our true original self before we were born into this earthly experience. This channel isn't about and wasn't created to be about tarot. It was created to show you how to be who you really are, to be at one with the universe, the collective of higher energy, and be a child of Creator God with all the insight, knowledge and power, intuition that can be afforded to all of us whilst we are having this earthly experience, which is really the age of Aquarius that we're in. We've been placed in a maze and told to find the park bench in the middle. Once that task is done, then we can travel home having gained the understandings and experience and accomplished the game. There are no winners or losers, only those who've finished the course, accomplished what they set out to do. So if we listen to Dolores Cannon, I love Dolores Cannon, but she kind of explains it that on this planet, in this life experience, we are put down having that telephone line cut. We don't really know who we are in our anointing. And it is up to us to know who we are and reconnect that telephone line. Once we've done that, everything like job security, who we're going to marry, how many children we're going to have, what career we want and how we're going to be fulfilled, what is our greatest purpose, you know, all those little things will all be answered once we have established that telephone line to our Creator God or our higher self, however you want to state it. So the age of Aquarius is ushering in new or rediscovered jewels of understandings that are the result of finding that park bench in the middle of the maze. Hopefully this video should give you some directions and illumination to help you on your way. Nothing is impossible in this life experience. Everything is possible once you know the secret understandings. I once asked my spiritual self to explain the secret, and as always, I was shown a picture of a circle with 2 rings, and this helped me to understand that how we feel has a direct consequence to how we think. So in the decades kind of that, you know, I'd say in the last, well, gosh, I'd say in probably the last 30 years, I've spent a lot of my time training to control what I felt. And, you know, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it is. You start off slowly and you work your way up. But there are situations that we face every day, but they can be viewed from so many different angles of emotions. And I learnt that kind of, you know, if a person cuts you up in traffic, let's say, you know, I've learnt that after kind of the initial shock that you get, which is perfectly natural, and I'm not trying to take that away from anybody, you then step into thought, into thinking, and you make assumptions. But I do feel like it's kind of my mantra that I keep saying to people, don't just rush in and with your emotions and think, oh, that's a rude, horrid person, selfish and blah, blah, blah. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know if they've had the worst day of their lives. You don't know anything about what's going on in their head. You know, if you think, well, they're angry and rude, who doesn't care about anybody else, you probably need to kind of say, well, is that my business to care, you know, about their emotions? Because really it's more about, I should be caring about my emotions. They could be having a dreadful time. Let their emotions be for them to sort out. Your job is just to concentrate on your emotions. So I can choose to let someone's sort of angry feelings dominate over and affect mine. That's very easy to do that. But what would be the benefit if I let that happen? There isn't a benefit. It's just kind of disconnecting you from that telephone line becoming disconnected, because, you know, sometimes if you're very angry, or generally anger stems from fear. So if someone's cut you up, it gave you a shock, you felt fearful, and then you started to make assumptions. We've been focusing too much lately on what we see as behavior in ourselves and others, when considering the secret to manifestation and recognizing of red flags in toxic people. We've seen that all through YouTube, when we should be focusing on what we are feeling and what they are feeling. So let me explain that, because I've not really said that very, very well. So what I'm trying to get through here is, rather than focusing on what somebody is feeling on YouTube, you know, toxicity and, you know, narcissism and all that, instead of focusing heavily on what they're feeling, you really should be going on what their manifestation is, what their actions are, and decide, do I like that? Because our actions speak about what's inside, but a lot of the time we are kind of trying to work out what they're feeling. And at the end of the day, that's not our business. Our business is, how is it, what are their actions, how are their actions affecting our lives, and should we be a part of that? But so much of us haven't done the work of this, that we are trying to connect with people emotionally, and actually you need to look at their behavior and say, you know, because that's the teller. If we constantly turn around and say to people, well, oh, he can't help it because of his childhood, oh, he can't help it, well, then you're not setting up healthy boundaries. Once you learn to control what you're feeling, this is like the cornerstone that holds the whole building up. It's the foundation stone that keeps the foundation stone that keeps the building solid. If you don't like how you feel when you wake up, then change it. I know it's going to hurt initially. You want to feel what you want to feel, and we've been brought up in media saying, oh, it's okay to feel whatever you want to feel. But this is the ego, and this is what the strength card is all about. You know, this huge beast inside of us wishes to be felt, and desires for us to be led by those kind of very egoic emotions, and it doesn't like to be ignored. But a wise person will take stock of those feelings and say, okay, I know where this is going to manifest, I know where it's going to lead my thinking, and I know what it's going to end up producing. I can come over a little bit aloof sometimes to people because I don't really want to join in with kind of negative talk. I'd rather look at solutions, really. And it does tend to kind of make people a little Spock-like, you know, when you meet people like myself. But, you know, if you start talking about life and positivity, and looking at, you know, talking about new adventures and new experiences, then I'm all up for that, you know. So every step of the day, kind of take notice of what you're feeling. Which is it? Is it positive or negative expectancy? Is it positive or negative feelings? And then change it. Take notice of it. Don't judge yourself, but take notice of it. If you're feeling nervous about, let's say, that's emotions, or it's both actually, but if you're feeling nervous about picking the kids up at school, I know most women can't stand the school gate, then change your expectation. Say, no, I'm going to expect it to be great. Don't think it, feel it. Picture yourself having a great time. Picture it. Doesn't that feel much better when you can picture yourself enjoying the walk or enjoying the drive, seeing smiling faces when you get there, stopping and having a chat with somebody who's just happens to be stood next to you in the queue, and have that expectancy fueled by your positive feelings. That has to be throughout the whole day. You'll get better at it, you really will. And then you're in a place of receiving manifestations in your life that will change your life. And if you can grasp hold of this, not just concerning life in general, but now do this with your psychic abilities, when you are washing up or going for a walk, walking the dog, sitting there with cards, and you are expectant to hear something because you're listening to your thoughts more, you know when it's not you and it's something else, and you'll be able to feel that difference. You'll take notice now of your intuition. You'll take notice of that higher self with that small voice, and you'll be able to be led into the psychic world, into the psychic abilities. I hope that I've kind of got it out there. I'm going to re-listen to this and see if any of it makes sense. But I hope, yeah, it's important that you get this, because step 2 really starts to take off. But this has to be the foundational understanding, and it benefits you. Even if you don't have any, you think, oh, I haven't got any psychic ability, rah, rah. If you just did this one step, your life would change and alter completely. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, because it helps me be seen on suggestive lists on YouTube. It is a free channel. I don't put any adverts in, or I'm not doing for a while. So I'm really hoping that you know, you can thank me by giving me a thumbs up and hopefully subscribing. All right,